Awesome. Welcome, Monica, and I appreciate you doing this call with me, and I'm super excited about this topic of the four states of consciousness. Um, and this sort of leads on to another video that or recording that we did, which spoke about the owner versus victim, and that sort of leads on to this call that we're doing today, which gives it a little bit more, adds more to it. So, yeah, I appreciate you doing this. I know that people will get lots of value from this. And do you want to maybe just share a little bit on what we like the owner versus victim? If somebody's sort of watching this or they haven't watched the previous video, what is the owner versus victim states?
Thanks, Quentin. Awesome to be doing this with you again and moving into the other two states that we talked about. And like you said, um, just to briefly recap what we had talked about in our last video, which is the victim consciousness and the owner consciousness. So the victim consciousness is really about there's something out there outside of me which is influencing my state of being. So it could be a person, a thing, economic slowdown, a pandemic, something out there is causing my anger, my frustration, my sadness, or even my happiness, So
Mm,
I'm happy because the weather is great today. I'm happy because my child did well in his exams, or I'm happy because the company achieved its targets. So whether it's a good feeling or something that's a threatening feeling, both of the times I'm attributing it to something outside of me. And when I'm in a threatened
yes.
state, I'm normally not being able to achieve some amount of security or control or approval from within me. It's always something or someone outside of me that is fulfilling that need. So that, according to me, is victim consciousness, and there's always a threat from outside. So would you like to add something about what this consciousness is before we move on to the owner consciousness?
Yeah, so I think it's just so there's a whenever I start my coaching, right, I always start with the owner versus victim principle, and it's important for somebody to actually understand that, because when they don't understand that, you can't really carry on, really, and it's important to also know that you can be a victim or an owner. There's different tiers to that, or different you could be a victim right now, and then in 10 minutes time you're an owner again. So it's not that you constantly in that state, or whatever you call it, which is important, I think, to also understand, because a lot of times when I ask this question, are you being a victim or an owner, most people will initially say, well, I own my life, I own everything. But we obviously know that we're all being a victim somewhere along the line. Something happens, somebody cuts you off in the traffic, and all of a sudden you're being a victim, right? So it's important to understand that you can be a victim or an owner. You can be an owner now, and then 2 minutes later you can be a victim again. So, alrighty, yeah,
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. It is a state and not a stage. So a stage would be, again, we discussed this last time, which is, you move from infancy to
yes,
adolescence to adulthood, and then you can't go back to infancy unless you're Benjamin Button. But in these, they're states. 1 minute I can be in a victim consciousness, and 1 minute I can be in owner consciousness. And it's really important to understand not just this, but it's also important to understand that these states are okay to be in. what
mm,
is what is really something that comes in the way or impedes our growth is to be guilty. You feel guilt when I say, oh gosh, I was in victim consciousness again, and then that guilt kind of keeps me in the loop and trying to achieve
mm,
from the guilt. So it's very important to know that it's okay to be in these states, because these states are a result of our past programming. So like
yes,
you said, if someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm immediately scared, first of all, physically. He might have hit me, for example, or I'm wondering, okay, does that guy not have any sensitivity or whatever else it is? I've been trained to have good manners. So this is all conditioning. And to just be aware of, oh, I just went into victim consciousness because I wanted to push that guy off the road, for example, is very important, and not have a sense of guilt. Yes. And so moving on to the owner consciousness is another state, neither good nor bad. It's just another state. And in this state, I've said, okay, you know what? I realize that I can choose. I can choose my response. So from a victim consciousness where I'm constantly looking at the world from a place of, oh, this is a place of problems. In owner consciousness, now I'm looking at the world's a place of opportunities. I can learn from everything, including if it's a challenge. And that's when I start to take radical responsibility and move into owner consciousness. So is there something you would like to add here in terms of what the different states is?
Yeah, so not so much to add on that. So I just want to. I had one point, which is why is this is important for leaders, right? Maybe in business or whatever the case. And I wanted to ask that just now. And I thought let me ask that now. So if you are watching this, you might be a leader, maybe you're a director, CEO, maybe you're a team lead, a manager, or whatever, and you're going, why on earth would this be applicable to, like, what's the importance of this? So I think let maybe just so that if you are watching this, then you'll understand when we continue with the rest of the other states why you want to pay attention here, because it really is helpful as a leader to understand where you are in these states and people around you in your team, etc. as well. So do you want to maybe just share with us, like, why it's important for a leader, whether it's a CEO, a manager, whatever the case is, maybe specifically in, I have this in business. Whenever I say I do business coaching, the first thing I typically get is people want credentials, right? They want to know, did I do an MBA or whatever the case is? And I always answer the question by saying I'm not coaching the problem, I'm not coaching the business, I'm coaching the person. I'm coaching the person in the business, understanding that that's how you level things up and that. So, and that's why it's so important, is we're always looking for information, and it's not always information. It's that transformation we want with the people inside the business that gets the business to level up. So that's my sort of short, I could carry on with that for a little while, but that's my short thing on that. So I would love for you to share, Monica, as to why would a leader watch the rest of this video or pay attention to whether the victim and owner states and the other two that we're going to share. What's the importance for a leader?
Oh, wow. That is such an amazing question. I could feel like a whole lot of things going through my head and myself when I heard that question. So yes, as leaders, we do come from these two states. So if I'm a leader in the to me state, which is the victim consciousness, if something goes wrong, it's like, we've got to fix this. Who's the one to blame? Where is the correction to be made? I've got an expectation, and this goes back to our first video that we made on judgments. I've got an expectation, and I'm always judging your behavior, your results, the company's financials on, did we make it, did we not? If we didn't, who's there to blame? What's there to blame? We can see it right now with all the layoffs that are happening globally, right? It's all about, okay, what happened? Who's to blame? We were supposed to make this amount, give this much of shareholder value. What's the first thing that we can cut? And it's a very short-term, knee-jerk reaction that we can take to fixing what seems to be a problem, but could actually snowball into a much bigger problem later on in terms of the company's trust and value. When a leader is in an owner consciousness, they're really coming from a place of curiosity, a place of learning, a place of opportunity. And so even if it's a pandemic, even if it's a recession, even if it's a natural disaster, we didn't perform well, it's like, oh, what's going on here? Like, what's really going on here? Where can we learn from this? Where can we see something that we didn't, because we were so fixated on the results and the expectations and the absolutely definitive results that we wanted to see? What can we learn that can open us up? So it's so important for a leader to be in these to be aware of which state they are in, especially when looking at challenges or when expectations have not been met.
Awesome. Awesome, appreciate that. So we've touched on the previous video. If you are watching this and you want more context, you can go on and find the other video, which was the owner versus victim, where we really went in spend a bit of time on that, which was the first sort of two states. Do you want to maybe share? So like we mentioned, there's the four states. So do you want to maybe share then what are the other two states?
Yeah, so the first two states are still ego states. They're still the having, I need to have this to look and feel successful, or I need to do this to look and feel successful. So first of all, when we move to an owner, victim to an owner consciousness, there's a huge jump. I'm really taking, a lot of responsibility. I'm owning this. I'm, in a sense of empowerment. So this is a huge shift. And the next one is really, and the next state is not particularly in that order, but another state is the state of through me. This is a state of surrender. So if I'm moving from owner, where I've made it, I'm empowered, I know I can do things. I'm coming from a creator consciousness. You're now surrendering to, maybe I'm just a conduit for universal intelligence, for flow, for divinity, whatever you want to call that, So if I'm really pushing against some force to get that expectation or that target or that number, whatever else it is I'm trying to get, if it doesn't happen, then I want to be able, and then I'm feeling very frustrated. I'm going, okay, what's really happening here? When all else does not work, what we do is sometimes with guidance move into a place of surrender. And this place of surrender is to see what's really blocking the flow of what wants to come through this. So we're channeling that intelligence. Just going back to that example that we talked about with, the recession, for example, or the layoffs. Instead of saying, okay, this is the number or the target that we should have met and given this amount to the shareholders so that we can say that we are successful and we stay up on the stock market or whatever else it is. Yes, we do have those plans, but there's a healthy non-attachment to it in terms of, yes, we're planning to go in this direction, but if something else comes up, then I surrender to it and allow whatever is wanting to flow through me in the moment to flow. So just wanting to know at this point of time, what does that say to you? What are you thinking?
So for me, I'm gonna yeah. So for me, I'm gonna share this, right, which I found super helpful, which is like a table, and it shows literally an example, and I'm gonna use the money example from the state, not stages, from the states, right? And as you mentioned, the first state is to me, so everything's happening to me. The next state then is by me, which is the owner that we've spoken about, by me, through me, the third state, and then as me. And I think I just want to point out, which I found very helpful, is how you remove what happens from the one state to the other, which is to me, to remove, go from the to me to the by me. There's what needs to happen is responsibility, right? You have to take responsibility. When you in the by me, which is I'm now an owner of things, is now you have to surrender, which takes you to the through me state. And then the through me state to get to the as me state is oneness. So I think that's quite helpful to understand how, because you can help you recognize where you are at, right? And what needs to sort of happen. So on the money thing, what I found helpful was, to me, would be scarcity, not enough. I have to work hard to get it. My value is attached to it. Then when you go to being an owner or by me, I want more. I can create more. It is a measure of my value. Then the through me state is it is abundant. It is an energy, not a thing. Okay, which I found was interesting. Measurement is irrelevant. And then the last one, which is as me, it's just another form. It's given and received with freedom and joy. So those when I saw that, it's quite helpful to put it, because obviously these things, even for me, sometimes they're big topics. Like we could literally coach on this for months and not even get through it. It's really deep. But if you can understand just the basic of it, that is happening constantly, you being in moving to these states constantly, super helpful. So I just wanted to sort of add on to that. I don't know if you got anything else.
Oh, that's such a super example. So yeah, with the money, for example, you started with scarcity, there's lack. I'm always seem to be broke at the end of the month or middle of the month, or I never seem to be having enough of money. And that's in the to me state. In the by me state, it's going, okay, in order to be able to have enough of money, I need to get a job, I need to save, I need to invest that money so it grows. I need to whatever. So here it's like I don't have or I have. Here it's like I need to do this to have. In the third stage, which is through me, I surrender. And what is the meaning of surrender? Surrender is not like, I just don't have this money, let's just give up. What's the point anyway? That's apathy. That's giving up. Surrender is, I would like to grow in my financial abundance, but there's this feeling of lack or scarcity that we talked about into me. And I feel that in the body as a past conditioning that has been locked in. And so this results in a fair bit amount of body work, which is why meditations like the body scan is so important to read that, because 88% or thereabout, it's not an exact science, but it's quite clear that a lot of that feeling of lack or scarcity is locked in as an emotion or a sensation within the body. And so I sense into that sensation and I surrender to it, which means that I lovingly accept that it's there. So there's a lot of acceptance. I allow it to be there because it's conditioning. It's just there. It's human nature. And then I surrender to it, which is I let it go. I let it dissipate. And with a fair amount of that practice coming in, it disappears. And then I am free to, like you said, allow that abundance into my life, because as human beings, we are innately abundant. We are free. We are abundant. We are complete. We are whole. And this is understanding the through me stage, to understand that I am abundant. I am connected. And then I am the channel to allow that to flow by removing these blocks, by just being surrendered to those emotions, to saying, oh, I have this feeling that just came up, which gave me the thought that inherently I'm lacking. And so I surrender to that and continue doing whatever I'm doing to be able to allow that. I don't give up. And then the next stage is the as me. So till the through me, there's still amount of separation, but there's a little bit of dissolving of the ego happening there. Here it's all about, by me, it's all about, I'm going to get this done. I'm good. We're going to win. We're going to see this through. In the through me, it's more like, oh, let's just surrender and see what really wants to come through me. It's a place of awe. It's a place of, wow, I did not expect that to happen. It's like, when we surrender, there are amazing things that happen and we go, oh, wow. So just to give you an example of this, when I moved from corporate to building my own coaching practice, it was a time of great turmoil for me. And it was just like, I need to cling on to this. I need to do this. This is my identity. And then I said, okay, you know what? It's causing too much of stress, too much of attachment to this position or this designation. So I surrendered to it. And then out came my coaching practice, which I did not know at that point of time I wanted. But it came through saying, how can I be of service to people who can benefit from my skills and my abilities? And I don't know how that's going to happen. And I was led to coaching. So that's a very a clear example of through me. I'm a conduit. What wants to come through me? And then moving to the stage of as me, like in through me, there's still a little bit of ego. There's still a me, and then something wanting to come through me. In the as me, it's a question of oneness. It's a question of, is there really a me? Is there really someone here who is in control or who has this mind body? Or is it just oneness? So that's the difference between a through me and a one me, as me. And the differentiation is just, there is no doer. There's no person in here, Monica in here, or Quentin in there who's doing all these things. It is just oneness, which has created this body, created this intelligence. If you think about it, that makes perfect sense, because you didn't create the body and neither did your parents. It was created. What's coming
Mm-hmm.
through you, sometimes you go, oh, I don't know why I said that in the coaching conversation. Where did that come from? Right. And so there is
Mm-hmm.
this understanding of this oneness, and this understanding that there is no person in here. It is just conditioning that has formed this program that is, playing out in this world. And so there's a oneness here between the intelligence, and there is no me. So those are the 4 states. And it's so important for a leader to know in which state they are operating in. A lot of the times, yes, we do see leaders coming to the coaching as to me.
Mm-hmm.
Something out there, it's the employees or the something out
Mm-hmm.
there that's, impacting my state of being or my state of presence. And as coaches, I think we just bring them back to where are we in this 4 quadrant states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome, and thanks for explaining that through me as me. I think you explained that very nicely. So, to sort of just wrap up, the only thing that I want to just recap or just add again is just to say. So there's 4 states, right? It's the to me, by me, through me, and as me. Okay. And if you look at the owner and victim, it's basically talking about the to me and be by me states. And those are really important to understand from the beginning, because I know a lot of, exactly like you said, you'll speak to a leader, maybe it's a business owner, a CEO, whatever, and it's all outside of them. And they have to first understand that they are basically then being a victim by being like that. So that can be super helpful. It's just even understanding that or recognizing that. I think that's anything else from that you want to add from me. I think that's pretty cool. I think you can listen to this and get a very good understanding of these 4 states, at least at a sort of surface level. I don't know
Yeah,
if there's
thanks,
anything
Quentin.
else.
I think this was great. It's again just a beginning. It's an introduction to what this is. It's a lifelong journey.
Yes.
And I think, just to recap what you said earlier, is you can be in any of these states within 5 minutes, right? And they all have their reasons as to why we're in these states. But the most important thing is to not judge each one of these states as being better than the other, to just allow any of these states whenever they are arising, and to just say, oh, I'm in victim consciousness at the moment, because I feel like the airline has delayed my flight and now I can't get to my meeting on time and I'm going to miss my child's birthday. So I'm triggered, so I feel like something outside is causing this to me. And just recognizing that without a sense of guilt of, oh, damn it, after all this work, I'm still into me. I think is so important, because that's when we are really being present all the time. So thanks again. This has been lovely chatting
Awesome.
with you.
Thanks so much, Monica. Appreciate it.